Welcome to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. If you're listening on Spotify, you can support the podcast through listener support. Plus, check out exclusive show-related content and join the community at patreon.com/Animal Stories for Kids. And now, it's time for our story. Once upon a time, there was an African bush elephant named Chidike. And Chidike, the African bush elephant, was not only a big animal, he was a big dreamer. And that meant he was a big sleeper too. Chidike, the African bush elephant, had a regular rhythm of his day. He would wake up and go to the nearest water hole and get a nice big drink. Then he would take some water in his nose and spray it in the air to wash his face. And he would go to the nearest tree to pick out some leaves and branches to eat. After his morning snack, Chidike would regularly go over to the wildebeests who usually hung out near the elephants. And Chidike, the African bush elephant, would talk to his buddy who was a wildebeest. They would go on for about an hour or two, just catching up on each other's day so far and what they did the day before. After a chat with his buddy, Chidike, the African bush elephant, would usually go back to his group and eat some grass and some more leaves and some herbs and take a midday nap in the shade. On this particular day, Chidike, the African bush elephant, was taking a deep nap under the shade. He ate a little too much and needed to sleep off the food. As Chidike, the African bush elephant, was in a deep sleep, his legs started twitching and making a walking motion as he lied on his side on the ground. The other elephants wondered what Chidike could be dreaming about. Chidike was dreaming, and the African bush elephant was dreaming about a cattle egret that came to him and perched on Chidike, the African bush elephant's back. The cattle egret was looking for its meal and stayed near the areas on Chidike's back where all the flies and ticks would hang out at. Chidike never liked bugs and insects around him. He was such a big animal that it was always a challenge to get those pesky bugs off his back every day. But this cattle egret was different than the others that came on Chidike every day. This cattle egret was really good at snatching the ticks off Chidike's back and eating the flies and other insects that hung out on Chidike's back. Chidike, the African bush elephant, said to the cattle egret, "Oh man, that feels so good. Are you a professional or something?" And the cattle egret said to Chidike, the African bush elephant, "A professional? What do you mean?" And Chidike said, "You're so good at getting those bugs off me that it's almost like you're doing this on a higher level than all the other cattle egrets." And then the cattle egret said, "Oh, really? I never think of my eating like that. I mean, think about it. If you were hungry like I was, then I'm sure you would think it's interesting that another animal calls you a professional when all you're doing is eating and trying to survive." And the African bush elephant said, "That's a good point. Well, even if you're not a professional, you are definitely the best bug eater I have ever met." As Chidike was talking with the cattle egret was catching all the bugs that landed on the African bush elephant. The cattle egret did such a great job at catching them all that Chidike didn't know how to react. He's always had an itchy back, and none of the other cattle egrets ever did a good job, so he would have to spend every day not being able to scratch an itchy back. But now that this cattle egret was on Chidike, life seemed more enjoyable. So Chidike, the African bush elephant, said to the cattle egret, "Would you like to be my private diner?" The cattle egret said, "What do you mean, private diner?" And then Chidike said, "Well, you know, I'm like the restaurant and I have all this great selection of bugs for you to eat. Since you eat all the bugs so well, I want to ask you to be my personal private diner. I'll let you perch on my back anytime you want, and you're free to eat all the pests on my back as many as you want, whenever you want." The cattle egret said, "Really? Well, first of all, I have no idea what a restaurant is, and so you kind of lost me there. But I get the rest of what you're saying. I never had an elephant ask me to be a private diner before. I would love to dine on all the bugs on your back." And then Chidike said, "Really? Wow, that would be so great. Thank you, thank you." I think life is going to be much better now." And then Chidike, the African bush elephant, closed his eyes while the cattle egret continued to eat the ticks and insects off of his back. Then the cattle egret said to Chidike, the African bush elephant, "Oh, hey, by the way, this is all a dream. But if you want to find me in real life, you can find me eating from two old friends." Then Chidike, the African bush elephant, opened his eyes. He woke up. There was nothing on his back, except some pesky bugs. Chidike got up from the ground and ran over to his buddy, the wildebeest. The wildebeest said to Chidike, the African bush elephant, "Hey, are you okay? You look like you had a weird dream." Chidike said, "Man, you won't believe the dream I had. It was so real. I mean, it all seemed like it was happening." The wildebeest asked Chidike, "What happened in your dream?" And Chidike said, "I was taking a nap and a cattle egret landed on top of my back and started to eat the bugs off my back." The wildebeest said, "Okay, and what's so amazing about that? I have cattle egrets landing on my back all the time. In fact, I think I have one on my back right now." The wildebeest did have a cattle egret on its back, but it wasn't eating much. It was just sitting there. Then Chidike, the African bush elephant, said, "Yeah, but look at it. It's just sitting there, doing nothing while your whole back is covered in flies." The wildebeest said to Chidike, "What do you expect? Do you think these cattle egrets are professionals at what they do to us all the time or something?" Chidike said, "In my dream, I met a cattle egret that was really good at eating the bugs off my back." Then the wildebeest said, "Yeah, right. I never seen such a thing. I never heard of such a thing. There's no cattle egret that eats bugs very well. They just, sit on your back and you just have to spend your whole life not having those itches scratched." Chidike said, "No, you're wrong. In my dream, the cattle egret was real. I know it was. It even told me that I could find it in real life." The wildebeest said, "Wait, so you're saying you dreamt of a cattle egret eating off your back, and that same cattle egret told you that you can find it in real life?" Chidike said, "Yes, exactly. It sounds odd, but I know what my dream was, and the cattle egret gave me a clue." The wildebeest asked, "What was the clue?" Chidike, the African bush elephant, said, "Wait, let me see if I can remember. Let me see. The cattle egret said something like, 'If you want to find me in real life,'" The wildebeest said, "Yeah?" Chidike continued, "Then the cattle egret said something strange and I'm not sure what it meant. Maybe you can help me." The wildebeest said, "Yeah, I'm all ears. What did the cattle egret say?" Chidike said, "It said that I can find it eating from two old friends." The wildebeest tilted its head in confusion and said, "Eating from two old friends?" Chidike, the African bush elephant, said, "Yeah, that one got me. I can't seem to figure out what that one means. I mean, I know the cattle egret was real, and it was so good at eating all the bugs that my life felt more complete than I had ever felt. And if I can just find the cattle egret, I can have it with me forever and my life would be great." The wildebeest said, "Wow, must have been some great dream if you're actually looking for it. This is turning out to be a fun little mystery to solve." Chidike, the African bush elephant, asked the wildebeest, "What would two old friends be?" "Wait, we're two old friends, right?" The wildebeest said, "Yeah, we sure are. I don't know if we're very old, but we've known each other for a little bit. But I wonder where the cattle egret is around us." Chidike said, "Yeah, I don't see the cattle egret anywhere around here. What else could two old friends be?" The wildebeest and Chidike, the African bush elephant, walked around, looking for what the cattle egret meant by two old friends. They saw two big stones on the ground in a distance, and Chidike said, "Hey, maybe the cattle egret is behind those two stones. Stones are old, right? And there are two right there." So Chidike and the wildebeest both ran over to the stones on the ground and looked behind them, but there was no cattle egret. Then the wildebeest saw two trees next to each other and said, "Hey, maybe the cattle egret is around those two trees over there. They look old." So they both ran toward the two trees, and there was still no cattle egret. Then Chidike said to the wildebeest, "You know who's really good at solving mysteries? My grandfather. Let's go over to him and see if he can help us." So Chidike, the African bush elephant, and the wildebeest friend both went to Chidike's grandfather, who was playing in the water hole with the other animals, enjoying the sun. Chidike, the African bush elephant's grandfather, was hanging out amongst the other wildebeests and elephants. And Chidike's wildebeest friend's grandfather was there too, hanging out and talking with Chidike's grandfather. They actually had both been friends many years before Chidike and his wildebeest friend have known each other. And as Chidike walked up to his grandfather to ask him a question, he saw a cattle egret flying back and forth in between his grandfather and the wildebeest's grandfather. Chidike nudged the wildebeest friend and said, "Look, there it is, the cattle egret from my dream." The wildebeest friend said, "Really? Well, I'll be an antelope's uncle." Chidike saw how well the cattle egret was eating up all the bugs off the grandfathers. And as he was watching, he changed his mind. He didn't want the cattle egret anymore. So he walked away while the grandfathers kept talking to each other. The wildebeest friend asked, "Wait, what are you doing, Chidike? I thought you wanted the cattle egret to be with you so your life can be much better." Then Chidike said to the wildebeest, "I really wanted the cattle egret to myself, but when I saw how it was eating the bugs off of our grandfathers so well, I thought about it. And I think they need the cattle egret more than I do. I'm still young, and I can be patient. Plus, I've been living with these bugs my whole life anyways. And I'm kind of used to the other cattle egrets, even though they don't put as much effort into eating the bugs than the one in my dream. I would rather live with the fact that my grandfather is being taken care of in his old age than with me having something for myself. Thanks for following me and helping me find the cattle egret." Then the wildebeest said to Chidike, the African bush elephant, "No problem. That was really fun. Even if you didn't keep the cattle egret for yourself, I'm glad we got to go on a small adventure and solve the mysterious clue you had from your dream. Hey, Chidike, I think I should go back to my family. I'll see you next time." And the wildebeest went back home, while Chidike, the African bush elephant, watched his grandfather just enjoying his life, talking with his friend, and not worrying about any bugs, thanks to the cattle egret from his dream. And while watching all of this, Chidike, the African bush elephant, said quietly, "Enjoy the bugs, cattle egret. Thanks for showing me how great my grandfather really has it in his old age." And Chidike, the African bush elephant, walked back to the shaded area he was at before. Still with flies and insects on his back, he lied on the ground and closed his eyes, and with a big smile on his face, he went back to his nap. And the African bush elephant lived happily ever after. The end. The African bush elephant is also known as the African savanna elephant and is one of two different African elephants on the continent of Africa, which would be the African bush elephant and the African forest elephant. The African bush elephant is the largest living terrestrial animal, reaching up to 13 feet high and weighing up to 11 tons. They're distributed throughout Africa. The African bush elephant has gray skin and scattered hairs. Its large ears can cover the whole shoulder and can grow as large as 6 feet by 4 feet. The large ears help reduce body heat by flapping them in the air and allowing the ears to cool off and let out heat during the hot weather. The back is shaped concave and its tusks are curved outward and point forward. Its long trunk ends with two finger-like tips. Some African bush elephants have been recorded to live in an elevation of 8,200 feet up. They are family-centered animals, which are usually led by the matriarchs, the female leader of the group. African bush elephant groups cooperate in locating water and food and defending themselves, while caring for their offspring. The African bush elephant is a herbivore, and its diet consists of mainly grass, creepers, and herbs. They also like to eat leaves and tree bark. African bush elephants have been observed to have a distinct communication system with each other. Their trunks are used for communication too. For example, when greeting each other, a lower-ranking elephant will insert the tip of its trunk into the superior's mouth. They will also stretch out their trunk toward another elephant they are greeting. Mother elephants comfort their young with touch, embrace, while rubbing with the foot. And they also slap them for discipline. During courtship, two elephants will caress each other and intertwine their trunks. And when two are fighting and playing, they'll even wrestle with each other. Elephants also vocally communicate through rumbles, trumpets, squeals, and screams. They can drink up to 50 gallons of water a day, and they can live up to 60 to 70 years old. Have you ever seen a real-life African bush elephant before? If you have, where did you see it? If you want to write to us, ask your parent to email us at animalstoriesforkids@gmail.com and tell us what you think of our stories. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to Animal Stories for Kids. If you like our stories, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your friends and family. If you're listening on Spotify, you can support the podcast through listener support. Plus, check out exclusive show-related content and join the community at patreon.com/animalstoriesforkids. Until next time, bye!